If you invest just $1 a day for 40 years, you could end up with over $200,000. That's the mind-blowing power of compound interest, and why the wealthy use it to get richer while you sleep. Hook End. Act 1. The Setup. What happened, and why it matters. Let me tell you a story about two people, Alice and Bob. They're both 25 years old, both start with $0, but one of them ends up with over $1 million more by retirement, without doing any extra work. How? It's not magic, it's math, but the kind of math that billionaires use to build empires and that most of us ignore because it sounds too good to be true. Pattern interrupt. Alice starts investing at 25. She puts away just $200 a month into a simple index fund that earns 8% annually. She does this for 10 years, then stops. Bob, on the other hand, waits until 35 to start. He puts away $200 a month from age 35 to 65. That's 30 years of contributions. Who do you think ends up with more? Cliffhanger. By age 65, Alice, who only invested for 10 years, has over $1.1 million. Bob, who invested for 30 years, has just over $300,000. Alice put in $24,000 total. Bob put in $72,000. She made $1.1 million from $24,000. He made $300,000 from $72,000. That's the compound interest gap, and it's why starting early matters more than how much you start with. Pattern interrupt. This isn't a hypothetical. Real people have done this. Take Ronald Read, the janitor who died in 2014 with an $8 million portfolio. He wasn't a hedge fund manager. He was a janitor who bought blue-chip stocks and held them for decades. Or consider Grace Groner, a secretary who bought $180 worth of Abbott Labs stock in 1935 and never sold. When she died in 2010, her shares were worth $7 million. Both of them understood the mechanism we're about to unpack. Pattern interrupt. Act 2. The mechanism. How compound interest really works. Compound interest is often called the eighth wonder of the world, but most explanations make it sound like a boring math problem. Here's what's actually happening. When you invest money, it earns returns. Those returns then earn their own returns. And those returns earn returns too. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that accelerates over time. Pattern interrupt. Think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's tiny. It picks up a little snow, gets slightly bigger. But as it rolls, it picks up more and more snow exponentially. By the time it reaches the bottom, it's a massive boulder. The hill is time. The snow is your returns. And the longer that snowball rolls, the more it accumulates. Cliffhanger. Let's break down the math so you can see it clearly. The formula is A is P, 1 plus Rn, NT. But don't let that scare you. What it really says is, your future wealth equals your initial investment multiplied by a growth factor that's raised to the power of time. And that exponent, time, is the most important variable. Pattern interrupt. For example, if you invest $10,000 at 8% interest, after 1 year, you have $10,800. After 10 years, $21,589. After 20 years, $46,600. After 30 years, £100,627. After 40 years, $217,245. Notice how the growth accelerates. In the first 10 years, you gained $11,589. In the last 10 years, you gained over $116,000. The returns in the final decade are 10 times larger than in the first decade, even though you never added a single dollar more. Pattern interrupt. Now here's the hidden detail that most people miss. Compound interest doesn't just grow your money. It grows the growth itself. After 20 years, the interest you earn each year is larger than your original investment. After 30 years, your annual returns are bigger than your total contributions. At that point, your money is working harder than you ever did. Cliffhanger. But there's a catch. Inflation. If your investments earn 8%, but inflation is 3%, your real return is only 5%. That's still powerful, but you need to account for it. $1 million in 40 years won't buy what it does today. That's why you need to aim for returns that outpace inflation, typically 7 to 10% annually for stocks over the long term. Pattern. Interrupt. Another misconception. You need to be rich to start. Actually, the opposite is true. The poorer you are, the more important compound interest becomes. Because you have time on your side, and time is the fuel that makes the engine run. Someone who starts with $100 at 20 years old can end up with more than someone who starts with $10,000 at 50. That's not a trick, that's the math. Pattern interrupt. Act 3. The takeaway. What you should do with this information. So how do you actually harness this power? First, start immediately, even if it's $10 a week. The habit matters more than the amount. Second, choose investments that have historically earned 7 to 10% annually, like low-cost index funds that track the S&P 500. Third, stay the course. The biggest mistake people make is panic selling during downturns. Cliffhanger. Let's look at a real-world example. If you had invested $10,000 in the S&P 500 in 1980, by 2020, it would be worth over $1.2 million, even after accounting for crashes like 2008 and 2020. The key is that you never sold. You let compound interest work through the ups and downs. Pattern. Interrupt. Here's the actionable insight. Automate your investments. Set up a recurring transfer from your checking account to your investment account the day you get paid. This removes emotion and forces consistency. Even $50 a month invested in a total market index fund can grow to over $150,000 in 40 years. That's $150,000 you didn't have to work for. It was created by time and math. Pattern. Interrupt. One more thing. Avoid debt that compounds against you. Credit card debt at 22% interest is compound interest in reverse. It grows faster than most investments can earn. Pay off high-interest debt before you start investing. Otherwise, you're fighting against the very force that could be building your wealth. Cliffhanger. Looking forward, the next 10 years could be the most important of your life for compound interest. If you're in your 20s or 30s, the decisions you make today will determine whether you retire comfortably or struggle. If you're older, it's not too late, but every year you wait costs you exponentially more than the year before. Pattern. Interrupt. Here's the bottom line. Compound interest is not about getting rich quick. It's about getting rich slowly, automatically, passively, almost boringly. The wealthy understand this. They let their money work while they sleep. And you can too. Pattern and interrupt. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button. It helps more people discover this knowledge. And subscribe for more deep dives into how money actually works. Because the more you understand, the less you leave to chance. Cliffhanger. Let me know in the comments. What's one financial habit you're going to start this week? I read every response, and your answer might inspire someone else to take action. See you in the next video.